you had mentioned that Jeff's first document on the metaverse was dated back to 1999, and you've kind of been like dreaming of multiverses your whole life, right? So it's like very serendipitous that the guy that helped co-found the game that you basically was part of what sent you down this path is now your co-founder, right?
Isn't that crazy?
This is
Um,
fucking insane,
that's crazy, man.
actually.
Yeah. It's kind of like, you have your idol and now he's your best friend and partner,
Yeah.
which is really kind of cool. But yeah, I mean, yeah. So back in literally 1999, the EverQuest team and Jeff, Jeff was really, so he's titled as the producer on EverQuest, but a huge part of EverQuest's success
Yeah.
was attributed to Jeff. And I
Anyone that
think
knows game design, game development, the producers like fucking everything. All right, go ahead, Sean.
he ran that
Yeah.
project, man. Like
Yeah.
he's the guy that's like, all right, this is what we're shipping. This is all, and then he like blow it out of the park and do all these extra stuff, and like they worked their asses off on that game, and like 2 a.m. nights, 5-6 days a week for sometimes months and years, just because they were doing so well, and they wanted to see it keep growing. Um, but yeah, so all the way back to 1999, and it's funny, Tim Sweeney, I think today probably has the closest thing to a metaverse with Fortnite currently. Fortnite Creative, Roblox, I would say is up there as well. But Tim Sweeney, after EverQuest, Jeff started a company called Digital Games Online. It's like 2004, 2003, and they were starting a company called a game called Vanguard Saga Heroes, which unfortunately didn't do very well. But Tim would come down and he would meet with Jeff and his team, because this is back before like Epic Games was very well known. Unreal Engine was like kind of a smaller thing, fairly big in the games industry, but small compared to what it is today. And so Tim would come down and like he'd work with Jeff and his team, and they'd talk about the metaverse. And Jeff would be like working on Vanguard like with his team to like 2 a.m, eating lean cuisines, and then like talking about their vision for the future. And like Tim has stayed true to that, from all the way back to the early 2000s where it is today, based on what Jeff told me. And Jeff, like myself, have also had this vision for a metaverse, which I think goes a little bit beyond, or at least is fairly different to what Epic Games is doing today. And really excited to be building that now with Avalon.
Yeah, it's very frustrating for me to watch people look at the metaverse term and be like, "Oh, that was a fad." It's like, it's literally like the only outcome that ever makes sense for gaming in a long-term perspective, to me at least, right? Like, especially when you've been an MMO player, like the metaverse just makes sense, right? Um,
Yeah.
could you mention anything from like what he wrote in 1999 that kind of really stuck with you, or was there any like individual perspective that's been like crazy for you to see like come to life?
Well, there's a couple things. When it comes to technology, like they come and go, like hype cycles come and go. It's kind of like AI right now. Like everyone's like super, like AI's the best thing ever. And like, look, AI is going to completely change the way we interface with technology. It's completely change. But there's going to be a trough of disillusionment, and it's probably going to happen in the next year or two, where, hey, like a lot of these companies that are valued at billions of dollars are basically just chatbots, right? And they probably shouldn't. Not saying this is OpenAI or any specific company, but like some of these companies that are maybe just exposing those APIs are probably overvalued. And the same thing happened with the metaverse, and it happens with every technology, a normal technological trend. But if you look at what the metaverse ultimately promises, it's essentially the ultimate medium in which humans are going to interface with technology, right? The way we're doing it right now, like I'm looking at a computer screen, I'm looking at a webcam, I'm talking to your virtual avatar, like that's pretty cool, but it's nowhere near, like imagine if I was actually in the same, or at least what it felt like, the same room as you, talking to you,
Yeah,
having a nearly physical conversation, right? And there's maybe listeners in the crowd that are all seated in the area with you, and maybe they're more physically present, right? And then there's an AI in the room as well. So when I think about the metaverse, it's sort of like the ultimate technological medium where all these things are going to eventually come and live. Now we're not there yet, but we're going to get there soon. But what's been eerie about Jeff and I is, Jeff. I first discovered Jeff because EverQuest Next was the game that he was working on back in like 2016, and EverQuest Next was almost like an early version of the metaverse. It was like this voxel based game where like you could create your own games and worlds and experiences. And I saw like a talk he was doing. I thought he had like a almost eerily similar vision for the metaverse as me. And so I pitched him Avalon, And midway through the pitch, he interrupts me and says, "Hold on, Sean," and then pitches me the rest of my pitch. And I'm like, "What the?" And I'm like, have you been talking to our partners or investors? Like, where did you learn all these things? He's like, no, it's like you and I want to make the exact same game. And it's the same game I've wanted to make since, 1999. So that was really kind of cool when that happened. And since then, we've been totally aligned in the game we want to make.
That's actually kind of creepy. Like, it's cool. It's cool as hell. But it's also like, simulation theory,
It's creepy, man. And I can tell you, I've been making games a long time, and it is very rare. Like, everybody believes that they have the best ideas, especially in the creative industry. And it's very rare to be working with someone that's a partner of yours, and for you guys to just be aligned creatively. It's actually very rare. When you're
Very
making art. So
difficult.
for that to happen with AVALON was like, it was meant to be.